welcome to the third episode of the Nut Sports podcast. Uh, Today's episode is called Beyond Football. And of course, with the World Cup around the corner, I thought this was perhaps the most suitable sport to chat about. And we're going to talk about the pressure, the identity, and what does it take to build a Indian football player. Elite footballers, they have to face a lot of pressure. There is injury, which is a part and parcel of football being a contact sport. Mindset, which plays a critical role, and we'll hear a lot about it today. And what does it take to kind of shape the next generation of Indian sport? So we have two very
Mhm.
interesting guests today with us. We have Dalima Chhibber. She is Indian national footballer. She plays for the Indian team, and she has been one of the key voices in women's football. And Dalima, more importantly, is also a qualified sports psychologist. So that's another hat she wears. She brings resilience, composure, and years of experience of playing for the country. And she's got a whole host of accomplishments. And probably, Dalima, while you've been 2019 SAF Women's Championship MVP, you've other accolades as well. I would probably leave it to you to introduce yourself and add a bit about what made you play the game.
The game just really came to me very young. When I was like very, very young, I was like around 6 years, 7 years old. The idea was to pursue an individual sports, and that being track and field. But football just sort of captured my interest, and it just seemed very fun. And that is literally how it started, kicking the ball around with boys. And after that, the rest was history, because I was 11 years old. I didn't even go for a trial. I was just like, there was like a women Delhi women's team for national school games. The trial was going on. I was just kicking the ball around with my father on like the athletic track. And that is where the coach saw me, and he called me in, and he asked my dad to, like, okay, like, you send your daughter in. And he was like, I'm not going to, because it's under 19 and she's only 11 years old. She'll get hurt. So then the coach is like, don't worry, send her in. And that is what my first tournament was really like as an 11-year-old. And I started with people usually start with under 14. I started with under 19. I came to under 16, and I played under 14 for my state team. And when I was 12 and a half years old, I started representing the country from under 14. And then I went on to play under 16, under 19. I captained the national team. And then I made my debut for the senior team in 2015/16, and it was South Asian Games. So over like 16 years of representing the country as a whole, but 10 years, a little over a decade of playing for the senior team, and representing India in multiple tournaments like Asian Games, South Asian Games, South Asian Football Tournament, Asian Championship, Asian Football Cup, Olympic qualifiers, and the list goes on. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, thanks so much. And well, the other guest today is Dhruvmil Pandya. Uh, before I introduce his accomplishments, just like to say that Dhruvmil and Dalima are probably India's only footballing couple. They recently decided to take the wedding vows, and they are working together. They complement each other in several ways, and we'll hear about that today and their journey as individuals, and then what they are doing together. Well, a little bit about Dhruvmil. Dhruvmil's also been a elite footballer, and he is now a high performance coach. And he's got fabulous international exposure. He spent a good amount of time understanding how the footballing development system works at a place like Crystal Palace. What are the
Correct.
pathways? How do the trials take place? How do the high performance centers operate? I think
Correct.
these are the learnings that he kind of has captured and is trying to implement them in the larger Indian football ecosystem. He combines his international exposure with a deep understanding of athlete development, recovery, and a modern football system. So, whether it's sports science or whether it's the pathway for athlete football development, that's what Dhruvmil brings to the table. Welcome, Dhruvmil.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so let's get on with our chat. And as I was asking Dalima that football is 24 by 7 for you guys. You spend most of your lives inside the football systems, whether it's the training grounds, whether it's travel, whether it's competition, recovery, whatever it is. But possibly, I mean, I want to ask Dhruvmil this. Do you even remember what sport felt like before it became your identity?
To be honest, ever since I was like a kid, like a 8-year-old kid, I was a very active child because the place where I grew up, it wasn't really one of the high class areas of the city. So just to give you a small, insight about where I grew up in a very small community, like a very tight knit community in the suburbs of Bombay called Goregaon. So when I was young, there was no such thing as, you're not exposed to a lot of screen time or anything like that. The only way you can spend evenings as a kid is to go down and play. So I was really a very active kid who would go out of the house at like 4 in the evening until 8:39 in the evening, come back, go to sleep the next day, school, like for a normal kid. And eventually, when you start playing with kids around you, it turns into, tryouts for your school team, turns into playing for the state team, turns into playing for the national camp, and
True.
getting into the national camp. And to be very honest, until I was 15, 14, I never thought that I would actually end up becoming a footballer. For me, it was all about, I'm pursuing a hobby. Because in the end, so a little background about my family. I come from a very basic Gujarati family. So for our family, it's all about, get done with your studies, join the family business. Luckily, they've been very supportive with my idea of becoming a footballer because none of my parents or anyone in my family had any kind of experience in sport. So eventually, like, you're giving your 10th grade. Even when I still remember my first India camp was when I was 14. I just graduated from ninth grade. I had entered my 10th grade, and I had been called up to Goa for the national camp. And it was such a big deal for me. Like for a kid going for for the national camp, you probably represent India. And I still remember very vividly. My father goes like, "Oh, good. We'll talk when you get the national team jersey." So I mean, things never it was never planned as to I want to become a footballer or I want to become a sports
True.
person. It just happened throughout the way. And when you eventually enter the professional football game is when things actually hit because one thing about football is when you're in academies, when you're representing academies and youth teams, you're in a very protected environment.
Yeah.
You're very protected by the coaches, by the management. You're not exposed to a lot of things which you eventually get to understand once you enter the professional market. So I still remember I signed my first professional contract when I was 17, and that was with Delhi Dynamos. And that is when things got real for me. Okay, you're entering a professional football market. This is going to be your profession. This is going to be your identity. So I feel like there was no such plans or anything behind it. It just took its path.
Super. Yeah, I think that's the most natural way of, as long as you fall in love with the sport you play, and then
Yeah.
life just takes you through that journey.
Yeah.
Coming back to you, Dalima, you've represented the country across multiple levels for years now. When you think of a young Dalima dreaming of the journey, what are the things that you completely underestimated? Yeah, because people see the India jersey, the tournaments, the recognition, but there are so many things that are invisible, right? The sacrifices that one has to make. So, what was it like when you started off, and what was it that made you realize, hey, you know, I need to really do so much more to achieve my goals?
I would say that when I started out, so I've been like, I call myself very fortunate that I come from like a sporting family because my father is my coach, my mom played sports, and I have an elder sister and a younger brother who were also both in sports and eventually moved on to different careers. But I come from like a family, in my immediate family, who's been very supportive of what I chose to do. So I just feel like, the biggest struggle for me starting out was that I was a little girl who chose to play football and who wanted to actually make something out of it. And I think that also came after I went like for my first international trip as a 12 and a half year old, almost 13 years old. And I wore the Indian team jersey and I just realized what that was. And it hadn't hit me till the time I'd come back and I sort of started getting that recognition that, oh, there's a Delhi girl in an under 14 age group. Because from Delhi, there are girls who've mostly only represented the national team straight away in senior or under 19. But I sort of got that recognition very early in my career, and it hadn't hit me until later. And I was like, okay, like this is something big, and like, this is something that I want to do because of how I felt sort of wearing the Indian team jersey and singing that national anthem, and like, what that moment
Yeah.
was. And I came back in, when people were asking me, when people were recognizing me for what I had accomplished, is when it really started hitting me that, okay, this is what I want to do. And I mean, it's so surprising that even after I've been doing it for so many years, it's even now that people tell me that, aram se khelna lag na jaye. Like, you get bruised or you break something. And it's just I've gotten so used to it. And I've been living with those sort of stereotypes. I'll
Yeah.
give you another example. In school, the teachers would say ki, it's a very common stereotype in schools, especially in Delhi, that sports people are nikamma. So they're like nikamme hote hain. Sports. So I took it on me because I was in my 12th grade, and the whole year I started playing in May. I went for Delhi State, then my CBSE, then athletic meets, and then my India camp, which was there. And then I came back in Jan, and my board exams were starting February. And then I was like, now I have to break the stereotype. And I was still training. Like, to everybody listening and watching, like I was still training. I never gave up on my training because that's still a myth that you should skip on your training or you should skip on other things if you have your exams. So I was still doing all of that, and I sort of went ahead, got like 92% and everything until now. Now that I've graduated from my school, it's been, I think, 14 years or something, that teachers now still, they give my example in school that
Wow.
Alima was there. So I feel like the more people questioned me, because I've been questioned a lot about the choices that I made and the things that I wanted to achieve. So I sort of turned those questions into motivations that I had to prove myself. So I had to prove
True.
myself a lot, and every time I stepped onto the field and every moment that I got. So when I look back, and there was something that I could really tell the young Dalima, because I had a lot of moments where I doubted myself that, okay, like, should I really just keep continuing it? Because, okay, like my family is there to support me, but like the world really doesn't look like it, that I could do something professionally out of it. But then I took it on me. I was like, okay, like there has to be one person who sort of takes that leap of faith, does it. So there was so much doubt, so much crying by myself in the room that I had to overcome. And actually, for me to be here and to like get to this stage, that along the way, I would just tell the young Dalima that, like, just keep going, just keep putting one foot in front of
Yeah.
the, and it all just, like, eventually work out and come together. Because I didn't think, and still, like, and I think I still talk to Dhruvmil about it, that I don't still think, and I don't still consider myself as like, oh, like, I've achieved something, oh, or like I'm big, or like, I'm a celebrity in football. I still don't think like it, and it still hasn't hit me, because I feel like people still question women in football or women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They
that,
still do, I guess. A few of them still do. Yeah.
yeah, question your identity. And when you introduce yourself as well to people, like, okay, like I'm a professional footballer, and then they ask, and what? Like, it's like a hobby pursuit,
Yeah.
like, that is not who you are.
True.
So yeah, it's just been a journey of a lot of doubts, and like, overcoming a lot of
Yeah.
stereotypes, a lot of myths about women in sport.
And hopefully your experience that is being shared at your school, it has created a few more Dalimas,
Mm.
right? So that's what they all every journey creates a hero or a heroine, and that's the role model that we are looking at, right? Dhruvmil, you've been a part of elite systems very early, including your work at Crystal Palace. I'm sure you would have seen the kind of difference that's there between the foreign development programs and even their professional mindset and standards. And when you compare it to India, what do you think needs to be done to, bring us? And let's not kid ourselves. We There's a huge gap. We need to bridge that gap, and we are all trying to bridge that gap, right? It's going to take time, but we. So, what do you think is the glaring gap, and how do you see us kind of bridging that gap?
Uh, I mean, the way you said, I was very fortunate enough to be exposed to a lot of exposure tours around the globe. And my brief time with Crystal Palace being one of the biggest clubs in the world right now, playing in the Premier League. Uh, I still remember the under 15 kids as well. Like I was 15 when I traveled and I trained with the under 15s over there. And I feel like the process over there of becoming a professional footballer is very streamlined process. Like everyone has a very clear pathway idea of how they can become a professional footballer, which is lacking in India, which
Yeah.
is one of the biggest reasons why where we lack as a country is what I feel. Because uh, if you talk about clubs like Crystal Palace where I visited, the kid has a clear idea and a pathway. Okay, I have to play throughout the youth systems in a club, probably get an opportunity to play in the reserve squad, perform myself out, outperform myself, and then probably get an opportunity to play in the senior team. Over here in India, I feel like things are so scattered where a kid who's just started playing football has no idea what to do. Because I see a lot of kids in my our academy as well, where the kids have no idea about the pathway. Because the football journey in India is scattered in a way, is like you have states, you have nationals, you have club football, you have school football. There is no such accumulation of everything in a straight way where the kid, it gets very easy for the kid to understand. The second thing and the biggest thing, I feel like there is a lack of investment in the facilities. Because I still remember even when I was interviewed in England by the Times, if I'm not wrong, and I had said, I had made a very bold statement being a 14, 15-year-old kid, stating that it's not like we're not talented because I played there, right? And if a 15-year-old kid can see that it's not about talent, it's about the exposure. Because you might not believe me when I say this, but me as an individual was exposed to sports psychology last year. I've been
Last
playing,
year.
yeah.
Okay.
So 25 years of professional life, like 12 years of football, 7 years of professional football. And I was just introduced to sports psychology last year. So just imagine the gap. Like when I was there, I saw kids being exposed to sports science, multiple people taking care of them, sports nutrition, so many things to make sure that the kid is outperforming himself in every training session. And
Yeah.
the biggest difference is, we're not exposed. Like I've seen kids playing, coming for training, and the next thing that I see them is being from Bombay, I see them eat vada pav, which is not
Yeah.
the ideal thing. Plus, I feel like in the industry of sports, the parents are not well educated. Because if you go to a parent of, let's just say, 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid and tell them that, okay, the kid has to have like a protein shake after working out, the first thing that comes into their head is it's a steroid. I don't want to give that to my kid, which makes absolutely no sense, right? So this is a lack of education, not from the society or anyone, but it's a lack of education from us as sports educators.
Yeah.
Because in the end, this is one of the major differences, right? Because if you want to become a professional footballer, let's just say not just a footballer, but a professional athlete, it starts when you're 5, 6, 7, or even 10 for that matter of fact. But if your parents are not well educated as to what the kid needs to do, it becomes very difficult for the kid to go on that path. Because at 10, 11, 12, you cannot expect the kid to do things by himself. He has to be spoon fed, and that is something that is very natural. It's not just
True.
happening here but all around the globe. So
Yeah.
this is one of the biggest reasons and the biggest difference. Plus, the biggest idea of the thing is, the idea of people becoming athletes in India is such that all they care about is medals. It's not about hard work. For example, Lionel Messi didn't become Lionel Messi in 1 year, or he didn't win the World Cup in 1 year. He took 20 years to win it. Virat Kohli didn't win the IPL for almost 18 seasons, but he won 2 seasons back to back. So the thing is, the word patience we're lacking in patience. The kids want result immediately. Okay, if I'm playing now, I want to be in the national team now. That's not how it works. You have to outperform yourself every single day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And that is when we will eventually get results. That is
True.
one major mindset difference which I felt was in Europe and India. Because when I was there, if a kid is not performing, the mindset of the kid is such that he wants to outperform, work even harder than everyone else in the room to get better. But in India, it's such that if I'm not performing well, it's not that I want to work harder than everyone else. It's a lot more about talking about, how the things are not fair or the system is corrupted or, what can be changed. But this is one of the biggest reasons why the European countries outperform themselves in every sport. It's not, even if you
True.
talk about England, England is one of the major countries which plays a lot of sport. England outperforms everyone in the World Cricket World Cup. It outperforms everyone in football. They play rugby. They do track and field. And it's not like they're not performing. They've been consistent over years because it's all about the mindset in the end. So I feel one of the major things that I saw the difference in is the mindset. And then it's all about sports education that is lacking in India, plus the investment in the kids and in
Yeah.
the athletes.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, absolutely. You're bang on with this. And interesting that you said that, because my next uh, area that I want to talk about is the mindset. You said that you were exposed to sports psychology only last year. Was it because of lack of access? I would say, was that more a reason, or was it lack of awareness? Or you are
Uh,
or you are made to believe as you are growing up that you really don't need to look at
uh,
that.
I'll be very honest. Like for me, the first thing or the reason why I started playing football was nothing else but watching my seniors play. I was very fortunate enough to have very experienced seniors like Ashutosh Mehta and a lot more players around me to guide me and everything. So for me, it was not about exploring things myself. As a kid, when you're playing, it's all about, following your seniors, or you're just looking forward or looking at how they're performing or just following the footpaths, right? Like probably Dalima has so many girls following her
Yeah.
footpaths. So for me, more than awareness or anything, it was unknown. I had no idea about
Yeah.
what psychology is because when you're playing in academies, you are around the same bunch of players, 20 to 25 people throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the week. So if no one is even aware about something like this existing, there is no point or no way that I would eventually get to know about it. I was
True.
only exposed through it when Dalima came in my life and we started talking about it. And jokes apart, like I've had games. I still have games where when you're playing big games, there's nervousness in
Yeah.
you, and it's not like you're not a good player or anything. It's just those game temperaments or nervousness that you get before the game starts. Because once the game starts, you're not thinking about anything else. You're just playing that 10-15 minutes when you're entering the field and you're thinking and I had like a I had before being exposed to this, I had a thing where I started overthinking about everything when I was entering the field. And I mean, there was one time I was just talking to Dalima and she just told me that there's something known as self-talking before the game, visualization. And I started doing it, and my first season I won the best midfielder. And it helps a lot, right? Because it's, if you think about it, if you talk about the circle I am from, and if I go there and I tell them about this, it's going to be a very funny topic. But when you
Yeah.
eventually do it on the field and you see the difference, it's a massive change.
True. True.
So
No, apps. Yeah. Yeah.
no, it was just that it's not about awareness or anything, but it was, for me, it was like a thing that never existed before this.
True. Yeah. 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 And at the elite level, I mean, we all see a facade, a certain image of the athlete, but there's so much of pressure that is going on, at in the backdrop. And Dalima, I mean, before even you thinking of deciding that you want to be a sports psychologist while you are playing at the elite level, I'm sure there must have been, whether it's because of injuries or anything else, the pressure must have really been a big stumbling block. And how do you train your mindset? I mean, what is it? What's the kind of pressure that the elite footballers really face?
I mean, when we talk about elite football and like, at least playing for the national team and even like club football now, because it has evolved so much, there are so many dynamics at play that there are fans expecting from you, and there are like some fans who follow you personally, so they watch a lot of the matches just because you are playing, and no matter what team it is. Because even when I was in Canada, there were people who had taken season passes just to be able to watch me play. So there are a lot of expectations that that come with people. Then there are the expectations from the coaches. Then there is pressure to perform because you want to be good at what you do. You want to be able to perform at your best, because till the time you don't do it, you don't really move on to the next age group, or like, your contracts are not renewed or you're not called back. So that sort of pressure always keep playing at the back of your head. And then you have, sometimes you get coaches who are screaming on top of their voices, and it's not helpful tactical knowledge, but it's just constant screaming of blame,
Yeah.
of pain, and using some words that don't really help you focus on the game or help you build your confidence. And along with that, football is such a game in which you have to take decisions in friction of seconds. So it's like you take, and it's a 90-minute long game. So you have to be focused throughout those 90 minutes. And now extra time can go on even until like 10 minutes in one half. So it can be 100 minutes or even more
Mm.
than. And it's a long time where like you're physically exerting yourself, because I think on an average a player covers around 8 to 10 to 12 kilometers depending on the game that they're playing. And while you're running so much, and those movements are never like straight, the different movements, it's a physical
Yeah.
game, and then taking decisions in which it helps the team, it makes you a better player, it gets you seen. And then when you join the team, there are a lot of team dynamics, and these are just like, a few that I've named. So there are like so many dynamics at play, and the field of football and the game of football is ever changing, is what I like to
Yeah. Yeah.
call it, because no situation is the same in every game. So it's like you have to learn to adapt, and then adaptability, of course, because if you're not able to adjust to the changing situations of the game, it really costs you your performance and your future and your career as well sometimes. So I think when we talk about pressure, it's just like never ending. And I remember, so I made my senior team debut as a 17-year-old, and I was very young, and most of the players were like 25 or above. So at that time, my first senior camp, I was made to play in South Asian game, and it was in India, and I was in the first 11. I know how to kick a ball, I know how to pass, I know how to receive. And in that match, there were like a few times I just lifted my foot to receive the ball, and the ball just went under my foot. And it was nothing, it was just pure nerves, because I was playing for the senior team for the first time, and I just really couldn't understand. And I feel like there have been a lot of situations where if I would have had just somebody to talk to, I think I would
Yeah.
have been more in control, because I just couldn't control everything that I was going through. I was overwhelmed by all the positive emotions. I was happy. But at the same time, I was so scared that it's in hometown. It's my first senior India camp, and I want to be called back. And so I have to perform no matter what I do. So again, like, so many things at play. So it's just like, it's so important. And why I chose sports psychology is also because of my personal experiences. Because football being a game of mistakes, you have to know how to overcome mistakes. Like, you are going to make mistakes. You have to learn
True.
from it. And also with the pressure that comes with it, and you're going to have more bad days than good days. So I think it was just like a culmination of all of my experiences that really sort of got me into sports psychology. Because I've also seen a lot of athletes who can't control it, give up, or like come in a state where they're not able to come out of it and help themselves get better. So there's just like so much at play in sports, and I feel like people don't really understand that behind the medals, there is just like so much going on. And before passing a comment or a judgment based on performances, that how difficult it is to actually stand in that place and position and
Absolutely. Yeah.
these tasks.
True. Absolutely. And yeah, that's true. And it's it's how you need that one person, whether it's a sports psychologist or a mentor, who can help you to overcome those doubts, can help you when you are facing those demons, that anxiety, that fear. And I'm glad that sports psychology is now slowly but surely creeping into the sports science ecosystem at most academies. Uh, yeah, coming to the other topic, and which is women's football and breaking norms. And Dalima, you spoke about your experience while growing up, the kind of prejudice people had and certain expectations that they had as from you as a girl, right? And the surprise that they showed, or the kind of questions you were subjected to when you were looking at football professionally. Uh, Obviously, it wasn't conventional, but things have changed significantly for the betterment of Indian football. Uh, what excites you most where India's the women's football scene is heading now, and currently it is, and what still needs to change? Whether it's the infrastructure, visibility, mindset, attitude. What's
I
your take?
I think one important point, and I think Dhrumil has already touched on that, is education and awareness. Because the sport is growing, the opportunities are growing, but I feel like the awareness around the sport and what it can do to a girl's life is still not there. Because
Right.
a lot of parents that still approach us when we go to our academy, or like even when I am in Delhi, or I was in Delhi with my father, he would get approached and asked about like girls in football, as to like कि कोई future नहीं है, we want her to study only, school में will let her play so that she gets a certificate, so that she gets admission in a good college to study and then get a good placement. So I think that is the only thing that parents are aware of, that if the child plays, if the girl plays, she's going to have a certificate that she can get into a good college and study better. So
Right. True.
there is no sort of awareness, because right now there is SAF Women's Championship happening in India.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think anybody is really aware of that it's happening, or there's like a women's football tournament going on. I recently spoke to my friend as well, and she was telling me when they traveled for AFC Asian Cup to Perth, there were like people who knew that the cricket team had traveled to Australia for their for their matches and everything, but nobody knew that the football team had traveled. And then again, when people did show up, they showed up with like Indian cricket jerseys. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that sort of awareness and like what football can do and bring is very lacking, because parents don't know it. They're not educated enough, and even the girls who are just like playing across India, I don't think even they sort of have that knowledge as to like what are the opportunities that they can pursue. And playing sports, like I came into sports psychology, there are so many pathways that girls and women can pursue and actually be placed well in terms of their
Yeah.
job as well, and how it just develops. Because let's to be very honest, in India we come from a society and like a culture that doesn't really, if you're just working and studying, it doesn't really empower you enough as a woman. For me, the confidence that I have to talk, the way I present myself, the way I communicate, is all because of football. It's not because of something that I
True.
learned or something that I study. So I think it is just like such an important tool for like holistic development as well, that parents and people are not really aware of the benefits and how it can empower a girl or a woman. But definitely, so happy to see the changes, because when I
Yeah.
started, it was one tournament that we would wait for around, and we would train like 8 months. I mean, 11 months to be very honest, because the tournament would last like 3 weeks or even 2 weeks sometimes. And then we would play that 2 week tournament and then we would go back home. So to now coming and having like 5 6 month long seasons with Indian Women's League that has come, professional contracts. There are so many school tournaments as well, which I didn't really have when I was in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is Khelo India that has come up. Then there
True.
are divisions in state leagues, even in Delhi. So when we play, there are different divisions. So every division has around 10 teams that are playing. So that equals to so many girls having the opportunity to come and play and just showcase their talents. And
Hmm.
also recently, I think in women's football, we had never had, like at least in the women's league, the club championship, that we'd never had our games being played in floodlights or at
Mm.
like later in the evening. But since the league also, we had to fight for the league, that we want a league, we want a professional structure around it. and then to fighting 9 years since the league started to now after 9 years actually getting to play in the floodlights. I mean, it's outrageous that how, like, it seems like an achievement to even be able to play a game in floodlights, as in your club matches. So
We laugh, but it's really sad. True, it's
Yeah.
it is. And the thing is, when you look back, you just see how much you had to fight to sort
true.
of come to this level where you're playing matches in which, because there were some teams that still had to play at 4 p.m. The matches were
Mhm.
the warm up would start at 3 p.m. and there were girls who were blacking out, and we were playing in Kolkata. The heat was extreme. So it's just so outrageous to think about it, that something so small, which should be so accessible, that is playing in floodlights, that we have to fight for it, and it seems like a very big achievement that, oh, like we get.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's true. Hopefully, we'll get there slowly, but surely we should get there. Uh, yeah. Next segment, let's talk about sports science and holistic development. And and this question is for both of you because it's interesting that both of you now understand football beyond just the skill, the mindset, the recovery, the training, nutrition, conditioning. What are the young athletes in India still ignoring the most? Whether it's sleep, is it recovery, is it mindset, nutrition? What is it?
I feel it's all of it, everything. Uh, Players in India are still not, accepting the fact that the game goes beyond the field. Because I've literally seen players, trying to sleep at 6 in the morning to play a game at 10 in the same day, 10 in the morning, which is practically impossible. So I feel the players. I mean, there are elite level players who are absolutely bang on with it. But the kids who are coming up to this professionalism are yet to accept the fact that sports science is a very big part of being an athlete. I've seen players scribbling about the fact that I don't want to go to the gym because I don't feel like. Not realizing the fact that gym plays one of the biggest role in your performance. I've seen players not eating well or not eating correct, not realizing that food is not just food or taste for you anymore. It's more like a fuel. I've seen players not sleeping on time. So I feel like when it comes to sleeping on time, I'm one of those as well. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not perfect either. So I'm gonna be very honest. I feel like we're still not accepting the fact that the sport goes beyond the field when it's about the young kids. And I think this is going to take a lot of time because it's not just the players. I've seen a lot of coaches say, and I quote, make the statement that gym is not for footballers. It makes you stiff, which is not true at all. So it's not just the players. If the people who are running the show trying to make a mindset like this, it is going to take a lot of time for the kids. Because in the end, by the time you reach the professional level, it's too late for you to get into that system.
Absolutely. It has to start early. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel we're still not there. With the kids, at least, we're still not there.
And just adding on to that,
Yeah.
I people don't realize how fast sport is becoming.
Yeah.
Like, sport is just so fast, it's intense, and the number of injuries, that is why people say that the number of injuries have increased. There are so many studies that are being done around it, because I don't think players or people realize it enough, that how small habits actually lead into bigger moments. And like something that you miss out, even like a 2 hour, if you instead of 8 hours, if you sleep for 6 hours, how injury
Yeah.
see if you show up for a match, because the intensity of the game is just going higher and higher and higher day by day. Even cricket that we saw, IPL, like we just got over, like the game is getting more and more intense every year, and the
Yeah.
number of injuries are increasing because of that. So I think that is like, like just adding on to that, that the sport is changing and it's going to change, but I feel like we're just not able enough to adapt to those changes.
And that's what I think it's important for the next generation, the young kids, to get these messages across, and not just to them, but even to their parents. I have specific question for you, Dalima. What do the young female athletes today have that your generation didn't, and something that they need to appreciate and make the most of?
I think I would say opportunities because I still remember that I had told my father, and along with my father, I would show up to the principal's room just because I wanted to play and I wanted some matches and I wanted some sort of exposure. I would ask him to fight with the principal to let me play in the boys' football tournament that would happen in school. There's so many emails that we had written. There is, I think it's called Tal tournament, football tournament. I have played in that tournament as well. There was a tournament that was called NPL. Then again, all of these are like invitational 11v11 matches that would happen. And whenever like my father would be coaching like a senior division team and he would take like, it would be like a friendly match, he would make me play in between that. So I really had to like fight my way through and get those matches and like playing time by playing with boys, and actually sometimes fighting, like actually fighting my way through to have that opportunity to play in a boys tournament. So I think people don't really appreciate enough that there are so many opportunities and there are so many ways to showcase your talents, because anywhere, because women's football is still evolving and it's still like, very small, the
Yeah,
world of. So no matter where you're playing, you can literally get into the eyes of the scout, or any game anywhere can click with the scouts and you can get an opportunity to come to the national team camp. So I think and now when I see the young girls, I don't see that heart and I don't really see that sort of
yeah,
appreciation, like, towards the opportunities that they have, and like, that sort of attitude, laid back attitude ki, like, if it happens it happens or whatever, like, I'm not getting this enough, why is this stay like this. When we literally had to travel in like general trains when we were training, sometimes the tickets also weren't booked, and to now having flight tickets no matter where you go and what league it is, and like, having that sort of luxury, I think like the generation, the upcoming players really don't appreciate the opportunities they have at their disposal.
no, absolutely. Thanks for sharing this. And Dhruvmil, for you, I have one specific question. What's that one mindset shift that Indian football system urgently needs? And I'm talking about the system. I'm not talking about the footballer.
uh, it can get very controversial when I say this, but I am still going to say it. That is, you're not working to make money, you're working to invest into it.
Yeah,
That is the biggest mindset change that they need. Because I see the top division clubs suffering, I see the elite players suffering. The impact has yet not come on the youth, which is a good thing, to be very honest.
hmm,
But the protection wouldn't last long if things get worse.
correct.
And the thing is, to be very honest, we have a very good cream of players coming out of the youth system now. And we need to capitalize on that rather than getting into a place where, everyone starts suffering. Because I feel like after a lot of hard work by the whole country and the whole system, until now, we've come to a point where parents have accepted that playing football can be a profession.
Exactly. Yeah.
If there comes a point which breaks this mindset, it is going to be very difficult to change the Indian mindset again to accept the fact that football can become a profession. So rather than focusing on a fact that Indian football needs to make money as well, we have to invest in it as well. That is one of the biggest mindset changes that we need right now.
This is brilliant. I think this is absolutely correct. And I think we have the example of cricket because BCCI really invested in the grassroots
Yeah,
cricket development, and now they're making money, right? I mean, if you invest, you get but if you, they didn't start with the idea of making money. They didn't even make money initially for the first many decades. It's only
yeah,
after that they really invested that and now they're milking it, right? So
very true.
that's the parallel. So we come to the end, and I'm just going to open it to some very quick fire questions. The answers can be short and light. And any one of you can answer them, right? So just a few questions that I have. Uh, should we start?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what's that one thing Indian parents need to hear?
Your kid can play.
Okay. And one thing that athletes, the players, should stop doing immediately.
Uh, think
Taking
that
the for granted.
Sorry?
Taking the opportunity to play for granted.
absolutely.
Okay. And one recovery habit or secret you swear by.
Sleep on time.
I'm glad you said that. Uh, the hardest part of being a professional athlete that nobody sees.
uh, Missing out on a lot of parties, gatherings, meetings, a lot of fun activities.
And even
As
lonely.
as as a sports psychologist would say, they don't realize that an elite athlete is also an individual first, right?
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. Uh, okay. One thing young footballers or their parents focus too much on.
Not focusing on football.
One mindset habit every athlete should build very early on in their playing days.
Work harder than yesterday.
Dalima is beating you to every question. Eh?
He's really quick with these things. I haven't even thought of anything.
Who handles setbacks better emotionally?
Uh, Dalima. Dalima. 100%.
Okay. Thank you so much. We could have gone on and on because there's so much that we can talk about. And Dalima,
Absolutely.
let's kind of build on some of the ideas that we spoke about today. Because there are so many factors. I mean, while Dhruvmil's focusing on coaching, sports science, S&C, your area of focus is mentoring and mental training, and also as
Yeah.
a elite footballer, both of you athletes, young kids, and parents are asking you for advices, right? Whether it's practical, technical, whatever it is. Uh, so there is so much that the two of you, not just individually, but working together can offer. And I think that's what we require and looking forward to that. And at Nat Sports, Dalima, you've spent some time with us. Now we want to make mental training a part of the daily training program. It's not that, people,
Mhm.
and I'm glad and I'm so happy to see the change that has happened. Parents from smaller towns, huh? I mean, I'm talking about really tier three, tier four towns, calling and saying that, hey, my kid is very good in the game. Technically, he's good. He or she is good. They train well physically, but the mindset training is missing.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to hear that people are willing to put in the time and effort that is required for that. But as Dhruvmil said, that train harder every
Yeah.
day. The day gone by is gone by. You need to look forward to the next day on your tactics, on your strategy, on your physical and the mental side. So yeah, lovely chatting with both of you, and yeah, uh, good days ahead.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ansh.
Thank you.
Yeah.